ad agencies really do. When you're paying an ad agency to run your ads for you, you're thinking that, hey, I'm going to give people that are smarter than me a bunch of money to try to increase my business. Or I don't have the time for it, and I'm going to get trusted experts. I don't want to hire people in my company, but I'm going to let them do it. They're going to be smarter than me. They're going to bring in all sorts of these other ideas. They get to know all this stuff. This is what they do every single day. What do ad agencies actually do? Hi, I'm Charlie. I manage several ad agencies. I've been supervisors over hundreds of millions of dollars of stuff. And I'm here to tell you what ad agencies actually really do. What is their actual business model and why might it not be the thing that you want to do? Anyway, let's get to it. So, first off, what does an ad agency actually do? So, what an ad agency actually does is an ad agency spends your money for you. In a typical fashion, the way that an ad agency relationship will work is that you give them a budget. Maybe it's 50 grand a month. Maybe it's 100 grand a month. Maybe it's 50 grand a day. Whatever it happens to be. You reach out to them and say, hey, I'm looking for an expert to take my money and turn it into a successful business. So an ad agency comes to you and says, all right, well, we can do this for you. Here's our plan. And these are the resources we're going to use. These are sort of the expectations we know about the working relationship. And then they figure out like who's going to answer the emails, who's responsible for what. And basically the client goes away. And at bigger agencies, these deals last a year, 2 years, or 3 years. They're scoped out in what's called an FTE, a full-time equivalency. And so basically they say, hey, look, we agree that we're going to pay you enough to have 4 people working on this for the next 2 years. And so the ad agency will hire up to take that staff. They're managing out the budgets. Things last quarters, halves, and years for those relationships. Now, much smaller ad agencies will do month to month and just hopefully they get a business that works. But the churn rate on that business is phenomenal. Now, but what does an ad agency actually do day to day? Well, first off, first thing in the morning is everybody walks in, they shoot the shit, it's a workplace, right? Generally speaking, you're going to update your numbers first thing in the morning, get some reporting going. Then you got executions and client meetings, and you spend the time basically working Excel, sitting inside of whatever platform you're at, having conversations about strategy and about creative and about all of this stuff. But there's a big gap in what we're talking about here, and I'll get to it in a minute. Now, what you're ultimately doing is saying, well, they got this amount of money to spend, and they've paid for to have this many people in line, and they need this many things. There's stuff called deliverables. So a deliverable might be, well, we need like 5 or 10, ads, right? So we're going to come up with a bunch of video ideas and send it to the client, and the client's going to approve or disapprove and give notes. And we go back and forth, right? Until ultimately the client says, hey, those look like good ads. We're going to be really happy. Those make us feel good. Go for it. I used a big word there that I hinted, and I'm going to come back to it. Then basically the ad agency's job is to spend your money. And, they get on a call every now and again and let you know how it's going, spending your money for you, and with the progress of the creative and the reporting and the relationships, what all of that looks like. Maybe there's some technical service that needs to be done, and, there's a lot of hand grabbing and shaking, and, there's gifts being passed back and forth with vendors and other things. And then the client gets a report. Now, a lot of smaller ad agencies, or a lot of bigger ad agencies that aren't very entrepreneurial, will say like, hey, look, you gave us $1 million this month. This is what you got for it. Right here's your CPMs and CPCs and CTRs, your clicks this and your rates that and your volume of X, Y, and Z. And then here's some information for you, right? So here's some, here's some, data insight on your audience, and here's the things that got better this month, and here's some low points that we had. Here's this trend line, and all of this stuff. So the client leaves the call feeling really good about that thing, and they can move on to the next thing. Again, dropped a hint on where we're going here. And then basically it happens again. And depending on that relationship, again, small agencies, it's sometimes it's week to week, month to month, and larger agencies, it's year to year, and other much longer relationships. Like when I was managing CBS, that relationship was long. I came in years into that project, and well, they're still on there, and I left that agency, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago. So, I mean, we were spending $1 million a day trying to promote things for CBS, like the premiere of Supergirl and uh, you know uh, Stephen Colbert being the host of the Late Show, and fun things like that, like dropping a mill on Twitter, mill on Facebook, and then writing a report about how many people you reached. Now there are two key words that I hinted at, and one thing that I didn't say. So I'm going to get down to what those things are. First off, let me get to the thing that I didn't say. Very few ad agencies will say, looking at your overall business, you gave us this much money and we were profitable to this extent. Now, a lot of ad agencies will say, this is your ROAS, this is your CPA, this is our month over month growth, a lot of those things. But they're not giving you that number in a way that means anything. And what I mean by that is, ad agencies, it is against their best wishes to accurately and warmly reflect the level of input to your overall business that they bring. They'll use phrases like when the data matures, and delayed attribution, and all of these other things that are fancy words for we're lying to you. And what I mean by that is, an ad agency might take care of your Facebook. You might have another agency or somebody inside taking care of email or Google or Snapchat or YouTube or Pinterest or any of these other things. And when they all give you reports, they're all giving you a report that makes them look good, right? And you have to know that when you look at a report, it's like, well, this says Facebook's doing great. Well, clearly Facebook's just lying. No, Facebook's not lying. The ad agency is. And let me get down to what this comes down to. And I'm not going to go into a huge thing about delayed attribution and multi-touch attribution and that whole fiasco that did, after decades and billions of dollars, nobody's ever been able to solve for, meaningfully. What they're not giving you, and what I used to do at ad agencies, and I did, and made me devastating inside of ad accounts with other agencies, is they're not telling you this is the incrementality that hiring us brought to your business. They're not pointing out to the actions that the dollars they spend for you did. What they're doing is saying so much money was made off, and we can tie all of this money back to what we've done. And that's fundamentally not how attribution works. It does not go from the result up to the dollar. It says from your dollar, how far can you track it? And then every month or every week or everything should be trying to get better. So an ad agency, what they don't do is present to you high integrity data about incrementality. Now, that's not every ad agency. There are very honorable shops out there. But the vast majority of the ad agency business, one of the reasons that you, as of somebody that might be owning a 7-8 figure business that has struggled with ad agencies left, right, and center and don't really even look forward to talking to them, is because their entire business model is not predicated on delivering you actionable, high quality data results and insight. So what do? Well, they do two things. One, they function as investment bankers. An ad agency is a bank. You give it $1 and they're supposed to give you $2 or $3 or $4. They're supposed to pay for their own fees plus extra. It's supposed to be stupid not to use them. Like, you gave us $1 million, we gave you $3 million back. You're welcome, and we'll take, $250,000 as the fee, right? And so that's the way a lot of it works. And a lot of these contracts are built on basically a base fee or a retainer plus a commission of ad spend. That's a big deal, right? It's not commission of overall incremental success to your business. It's overall commission on ad spend. Now, I'll give you a hint. It takes this much work to spend $1 million. It quite literally can be done by an entry-level employee in an hour. So what are you paying for when you're doing $1 million versus 50 grand? A lot of times you're not even paying for the creative. A lot of times you're not even paying for strategy. You think you are, but you're not. Like there's not a big strategy when they say, okay, well, what we're going to do is going to try to give you the best results here, and we're going to do X, Y, and Z. Now that sounds like they're doing strategy stuff, but really what they're doing comes down to the last thing. What an ad agency actually does. What an ad agency actually does, your job as an ad agency, more than anything, your North Star, the absolute thing that you must eat, breathe, and sleep, you're the only reason that you're valuable, is that you make the person that hired you look good to their boss. That's it. So every conversation that you have with an ad agency should make you feel good. Should give you something that you, as the client, can go to your boss and say X, Y, and Z. That's what an ad agency actually does, is you give them a large sum of money so that they can make you feel good. That's their primary role. Now, that's not for every agency, that's not for every client, that's not for every business, but especially in the world of very big relationships, very big companies, very big projects, very long contracts. The people that work at the client side may or may not have been there when that contract was signed to start the relationship. Most importantly, the chief marketing officer of that company was probably there when they signed the contract and is probably not there when the contract is over. The life cycle of marketing executives is a lot shorter than the relationship of big agencies to their big clients. I mean, I think there are people that have quite literally started their career and retired in the amount of time that Nike and Apple have been working with their agencies, or Coca-Cola, right? These are embedded relationships. Now, I understand I'm talking about big world stuff, but this also goes down to small world stuff. Because what it means is that model, what small agencies are trying to accomplish ultimately is to make the client feel good. It's a service industry job. It's like being a waiter or, a bartender or anything else. Your job isn't to deliver business results. The actual work at an ad agency, the director makes the contracts. The supervisor oversees the teams. The senior has hands-on training and does a lot of the talking and reporting. And the junior, the entry-level employee, does all the work. Which makes sense, except you're not paying for somebody who's on day one to manage the success and future of your business. So why are you running with an ad agency? I'm not saying that all agencies are bad, and I'm not saying that you should bring everything in-house. There are a lot of good relationships, but I want you to understand what an ad agency actually does. Their business model, more than anything, is to make you feel good. And nowhere in the vast majority of ad agency contracts is it tied to incremental contribution to the bottom line. So when you're going out there to try to hire an ad agency, or if you've been burned a million times, understand that there is a fundamental gap in what you're asking for and their motivation. And if you're running an ad agency and you're sick and tired of clients leaving you, maybe try to think about what you're actually trying to do. Yes, you want the client to be happy at the end of every phone call, but you know it's going to be a lot better for the relationship than the client being happy at the end? You being able to say, regardless of our relationship, hiring me is good for your business. I'm a better employee than anyone you can hire. The net result of working with me is that you're more successful, and I can provide that better than anyone else can. And I'll give you just one last little tip or a bit of insight. I mentioned the CBS, and they give us like $1 million a day sometimes to promote things. So you're thinking, well, what does that call look like when you spend $1 million? Well, I'll tell you. First off, it's a god awful PowerPoint deck that I built, and we usually would then hand it off to like some design department in some other wing of the ad agency, because they're making so much money hand over fist. They have people that literally their entire job is to just draft PowerPoint decks so that you can make people feel good on the call because that's your business. And basically, slide 1 is hello. Slide 2. If you had given me $1.5 million, this is what you could have done. Slide 3. If you had given me $1.2 million, this is what you could have done. Slide 4. Here's everything that we learned about your audience and all of this other stuff. We used interest groups to try to collect market research. By the way, the majority of the money that goes into interest groups is done by market research from filthy rich companies that have fuck all of an interest about actually making money. So when you think you're trying to make some money on an interest group, understand there's another asshole on the other end dropping $1 million today to make a report to have some other rich asshole who's also stuck in middle fucking management look good to their boss. You're never going to win that fight. Like page 9 or 10 is, you gave us $1 million, this is what you got. We projected X, we came in at Y. How do we know that we're going to beat that every single time? Because I went into the machine, I projected what my outcome is going to be, and I tacked on 15 to 20% of it. So that I know I can over-deliver every single time because you didn't bother spending 10 fucking minutes to see what would happen. That's what an ad agency actually does. And for what it's worth, it was phenomenal for business. I grew CBS from 50 grand a day to $1 million days in less than 9 months. Doing that because they were trying us out because the internet was some weird fad and we absolutely fucking crushed. So anyway, what does an ad agency actually do? Hi, I'm Charlie. I hope that was helpful. And if you like more things or want to know more about what you're supposed to do and how to run Facebook and stuff, look for this nice little playlist right there. And, ping that thing, that thing, and check out this guy, all that fun stuff. Anyway, hope you guys are doing well. I'll see you later.